Hi, everybody, Richard here, and today I want to talk about something that is literally the root cause of every existential crisis ever experienced on this planet, right? And this question is, what is my purpose? Why am I here? And how to go about figuring this out and starting that journey to self actualization, right? Now, this came to me as I watched one of my favorite shows called Pantheon. There was a line in the show that really, really woke me up, and just all my bells and whistles were going off when I heard this line. And it goes, a conflict in identity always results in a conflict in purpose. Now, I don't know what it was about this line, but it literally stopped me in my tracks. I had to pause the show and sit with myself for a few minutes to really digest that line. A conflict in identity always leads to a conflict in purpose. And as the more time and spaciousness I gave that line, the more clarity and wisdom I gained from that line. And I was able to gain this by looking into my own life, right? So growing up in a very traditional Nigerian household, I had to behave in a certain way to get the love and approval from my parents that was very different than how I behaved outside in society. Because then I moved to England and then Canada, which was a very Western liberal society that felt more aligned with my own core values. And then I felt this split in myself, how I interact with my Nigerian family and my Nigerian culture versus how I interact in the world as a member of English and Canadian society. Now, this caused me to split myself. And splitting essentially is when you behave differently with different groups of people, and it's rooted in your need to belong, which is a very, very primal need that we all have. But the more you understand and feel deep inside of you that you are a spiritual being having a human experience, the more of a need to transcend that feeling of wanting to belong at all costs. You have to move past that to really identify who you really are, to consolidate all the different parts of yourself that you've created for the different groups in your life. Now, a good analogy for this is Lord Voldemort. So if you're not a Harry Potter fan or you don't really know about the series, then I'm sorry, you may not get this. But if you are, you'll know that Voldemort at some point created different Horcruxes of himself, right? He basically split himself into all these different fragments and stored them in different places, to the point where at some point he was just like a black smoke. He was not even like recognizable. That's what happens to us when we split ourselves, when we behave a certain way or we show only a certain part of ourselves to different people in hopes that they accept us, in hopes that they validate us, and in extreme cases in hope that we feel safe with them, right? But what happens when you do that is you're spending so much energy keeping up with all these different parts of yourself and trying to be perfect and making sure that people like you and you're saying the nice things and the right things and that people perceive you as a nice, warm person, even though that's not the entirety of you. A lot of energy is being spent in these spaces that is taken away from you being able to look inside of you to identify your uniqueness, your true authentic self, and in that see your natural gifts, your natural calling, the thing that you're good at, that is effortless for you but requires work for other people. You don't have the bandwidth to do that work because a lot of your energy is spent outside of you trying to keep up with all the different parts of yourself that you've created, right? So the way that you really start to change this, to start to identify what your purpose is, who you really are, is by consolidating these different parts of yourselves and bringing them together to form and accept that whole part of you, right? And the way that you do this, honestly, is radical honesty at all times. This is literally one of the hardest things you can do. It sounds so easy, just be honest. But when you've been conditioned to mute yourself or not share parts of yourself for different groups for decades, the idea of just being honest and speaking your mind, it will be very daunting. It will take practice, it will take time, but this is what we have to do to consolidate all the different parts of ourselves that we've split so that we can be accepted and validated in society. That just means telling the truth, right? If you're not okay with something, say I'm not okay with it. If you're not comfortable, say I'm not comfortable. If you don't want to go out with your friends one night, just say, listen, I don't want to go out. I don't really have a reason. I just don't want to go, right? It's just really starting to own and honor all parts of yourself, define your core values, right? And have them be rooted in integrity and authenticity. The moment you do that and you start telling the truth, it becomes so much easier and you stop actually caring what other people are thinking about you. Once you stop caring what they're thinking about, you now have so much room and time to go inside of yourself to start to notice your unique quirks, the things that are beautiful about you, the things that only you can do that nobody else can do. All this happens when you finally come home to yourself and start to love and accept all parts of yourself, regardless of how other people will receive you. Now, once you can do this and you've identified your core gifts, you now have to use this to serve others. That's the trick. The trick is not realizing what you're good at, realizing your special gifts or your calling. The trick to finding your purpose is using this gift in service to others at all times. That's the trick. That's how you find your purpose. Is you go inside of yourself, you realize something I'm good at, and then you start to perform that act and start to serve others with that act. Right? So we've seen a lot of examples about this. So I'm sure you've heard of people that quit their corporate jobs and start farming, or they quit their jobs and open up a bakery. Whatever it is, if you wake up in the morning and deep inside of you, you want to be a baker, start baking and spread that bread. Bake that bread, babe. Spread the joy through your baking and make the world a better place through your baking. So that's how you find your purpose, by consolidating all the different parts of yourself, and then with the newfound energy that you have, dig deep, go inside of yourself, find what it is you're really good at, what is your true gift, and then use it to serve others. That's what's going to keep you going every day, the knowledge that your true gift is adding to the world.